Welcome back to Do It Yourself Worship for Small Churches Without Musicians, Part 2. Today we're going to be talking about really the tools of our trade, so to speak. Yesterday, we kind of showed you what could be done if you have a laptop, a way to play music. One of the things I may have forgotten to add is that you also need a way to project an image on a screen using a projector. But even if you didn't do that, these videos would still be helpful because you could just create a worship bulletin on Microsoft Word. We're going to show you all of that. But the bottom line is that this course is meant for you, the pastor, the deacon, the Sunday school superintendent, the worship leader, the person who is putting worship together, and there is no musician, no pianist, or no organist. Now, I like to say that this lecture today is sort of like Bob Ross. If you've never watched Bob Ross, you need to go online. You need to watch some of his paintings. He goes from zero to Rembrandt in 28.3 minutes. Okay. Excellent painter. But one of the things he did at the beginning of every one of his paintings is he put on the bottom of the screen all the colors that you would need for that painting. And that's what we're kind of doing here in this particular lesson. We're going to show you and survey for you all of the free, let me underline that, free products that you can use to put together worship for your local church. This is good for many churches with many different styles. Our church, low church, but conservative in beliefs and conservative in the feeling of the worship. We're not using a heavy band. We're not using drums. We're not using electric guitar. Guitars can be nice, but we're not using that to sound like a modern rock church worship service. At our church, we're mainly using the piano. We want it to sound conservative. We want it to sound nice and easy to sing along to. Now, your church may have a different style, and that's okay. Praise the Lord. A lot of these principles will remain the same. As we said before, the one caveat is that mainly if you're going to receive free music from off the internet, and we would show you how to do all of this in our lessons, it has to be in the public domain. And it's really a lot of the older hymns that are in the public domain. Sometimes you'll find some of the newer courses or the newest hymns or the newest songs. Sometimes you'll find a little bit more modern ones in that we're using in worship available for download. But for the most part, it's really more of the older hymns that you'll be able to download a lot of. Also, you want to think outside the box. Everything we're going to show you today, play with the programs. Think of them as toys. You really can't break them. A lot of people are afraid of the computer. They hit a button, they think a spring is going to come out. That's not the case. Just play with the programs that we're going to talk to you about today. See and feel what they're like. Your imagination will start to soar as you begin to realize, yeah, I really can show worship and create a worship program. So we're going to survey now the various programs that we use to create a worship service for the local church. And the first one is actually the one that's on the screen right now. And it's called WPS Office. So we have it right in the right hand or the left hand corner, WPS Office. This is a free program that replaces Microsoft Office. Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Spreadsheets, they can be expensive. Yeah, Microsoft has now taken all of that and made it into a 365 package where you can spend so much per month. But how about free? This package is completely free. All of these programs that we're going to talk to you about, we will put the links in the YouTube description so that you can go to those programs and download them at will. So this is the first program. And as you can see, there are some tabs here. I've used this tab to sort my notes for today's lesson. But Microsoft Presentation, well, the WPS version of Presentation is here. And this is where the fun is, where you're creating slides for your worship service. So WPS Presentations, These will create your slides. Obviously, we're creating them, but these are the various slides that we use at our church. Another portion of this program, which is very helpful, is the spreadsheet version of WPS. Now, again, WPS is free, and it's going to do 80 to 85% of everything that you need to do. Now, I have a great friend at work who uses spreadsheets and really tries to get them out to the max, as much statistical data and analysis that it can get to. I'm going to imagine that, as extreme as he is, this spreadsheet program will probably not go that far. So if you're really looking for intense statistical analysis on a spreadsheet, well, we're not doing that. We're just doing worship. And for our worship purposes, 85% of everything that we need to do, or really 100% of everything we need to do, will be done by these programs. What you're seeing here is a little sheet that I create for all of those at the church service who need to know it. So this is the song leader, this is the person running the soundboard, and this is the person doing the bulletin. Those three people need this sheet. It tells you the date, it tells you the memory verse, the order of worship, what we're going to be singing, and so forth. Another nice program, instead of Microsoft Word, you can use the WPS version of Word, WPS Office. And this is kind of like a worship bulletin. Now, I do this bulletin for myself as the leader because I don't want to print pages upon pages of presentations to tell me what the next slide is all the time. And so I'll use this, which kind of encapsulates the songs that I'm singing, but on one sheet. And so this is the WPS Office. And again, this is what I'm showing you is not the only thing you can do as a church. I mean, you can write letters with it as a church, you can do formal presentations, you can do bookkeeping, even high finances at the church can all be done on these programs. We'll show you in future lectures exactly how you go about putting together a worship service using these services. But before we did any of that, we wanted to show you, first of all, some of the items that you'll need. Now we're showing you another program. This is going to be an important program if you don't have a pianist or an organist and we need to put together some musical files. Here I already have a musical file loaded. I'm going to show you where to get hymns when you get to that part. But this is a program called Audacity. Audacity. This is a free music, more of a sound program that edits musical files, can also edit sound files, can also edit sermons. In future lectures, we'll talk about your own website. We'll talk about, creating sermons and content for your website. But for now, all you need to know is this is Audacity. So, for example, we're going to play a piece of music for you. That's a beautiful hymn, by the way. It's called Who Is He in Yonder Stall? If you've never heard that song before, I encourage you to go online, look it up, listen to it. It's a beautiful hymn. It's a Christmas hymn, yes, but it really is only a Christmas hymn on the first verse. Then as you get to the other verses, it's really more about the life of Jesus. Anyway, what this program does is it plays this music, but also can edit the music. Depending on what kind of musical file you're using, you'll be able to add verses or subtract verses easily. You'll be able to make it louder or softer, and we will go through those processes for you. But this is your main editor. It is a great tool for not only sermons, but music that you're using for your church worship. Another program that I wanted you to be aware of, and one that I really think that you should get into your arsenal is a program called MP3 Gain. Okay, MP3 Gain. What MP3 Gain is, if you look at this list of hymns, and this is going back to when I first started, so you can see I'm still kind of new. I'm still getting a hang of creating worship, a worship environment for our people. You can see here my decibels on the sound are all over the place. Okay. What does this mean in English? This means in English that when the sound technician at my church played these songs, they were constantly moving the volume up and down, and it was probably very difficult for them. What this particular program does is it levels all of your music so that, and I'm just going to give you what I have. I've leveled the music to 89. So this program will go through all of your sound files and say, wait a second, this one's too loud, this one's too soft. Let's make them all equal volume. And guess what? That's going to be a tremendous blessing to your sound technician now, because they don't have to fuss with various volume controls. So those are the programs that I would encourage you to use for this process. Finally, we're going to go over some websites. Now we're doing a very brief survey of the various websites that will help you to put together church worship. This one is a website that I have used often. It's called smallchurchmusic.com. Smallchurchmusic.com has very nice tracks. And let me just say this disclaimer. In no way would I ever say on any of these sites when I'm critiquing them that they're not valuable or they're not helpful. They're all helpful, 115%. What I want to say is that this particular website is very helpful because it gives you music that's predictable, and it gives you music that is even. In other words, not too high, not too low, basically even. And it gives you spaces in between the music so that you can use a program like Audacity, like we just saw, to actually take out verses or put in verses, depending on how you want the worship service to go. That's one of the great things about this particular website. The bad part of that, however, is simplicity. Sometimes what that means is that the sound is so even that your people might fall asleep listening to the same music over and over again. So, and become very predictable. So for our church, I look for many, many different places to get music from. Sometimes the music is not as easy as this music, but it has an interesting sound that keeps people's attention. And by interesting, I don't mean radical and it sounds rocky, but just a different way to arrange the music. I guess is what I'm trying to say. A different kind of arrangement of the music. The tune stays the same, the medley stays the same, the intros and the transitions may sound a little different. Small church music is great. Play around with small church music. This particular, uh, you know, website has just a great amount. We're just looking here and we're looking at, look at how many there is. More about Jesus, what I know. Here we go. One that we all know, or hopefully that you know. More about Jesus, would I know. It's going to give you all the lyrics, and it's going to give you different versions. If you like the small band sound, because they've got small band sound. If you like simple piano, they've got simple piano. And you can hear and listen more of his love who died for me. More about Jesus, and so on. So you can listen to this particular music and look at these selections. Another website, which I tend to use a lot, is a website called timelesstruths.org. The main reason for using timelesstruths.org is they have a lot of lyrics to their songs. So I will use Google search engine to try to find lyrics sometimes on timeless truths so that we can create these programs. Now, I wanted to show you other websites, and lo and behold, I wake up this morning and find out after many years of using them, they no longer exist. Includes hymnary.org. This includes hympod.org. So those two websites. So I just bring that up to say this. Make sure that you're not using just one source for your music. Find many different sources on the internet. These are just examples. Find many different sources. And another source that you can use for music is actually YouTube. And you would think, well, that's fascinating. How is YouTube a place to get music? You can get piano music on YouTube, but what I like to do is I'm constantly listening to new hymns, new music, things I haven't heard before, new arrangements. And so this was happened about 2 or 3 years ago. I was listening to This Is Mennonite Worship a cappella, and I heard this song, He Still Came. Wow, it really touched my heart. It really touched my heart. Well, it might have been hard to hear some of that music through our video. Do apologize. I'm using Screencastify to share these lectures with you. I've never done this before. I've never used YouTube to publish them before. It's a learning process, but I say that to say this. This is how I learned to teach myself how to have some sort of worship service for our people. And so I just taught myself. I just went through, did it, fell on my face a few times, made some mistakes, continue to make mistakes to this day, and yet taught myself how to do it. Two more websites I want to show you, which will be important, going forward. Remember that we talked about when we were looking at the worship slides. Okay, but you see all these backgrounds with the worship slides, just beautiful backgrounds. A lot of these are free. Now you can go online and buy backgrounds and buy pictures and artwork, but a lot of it is for free. Two websites that I use mostly, freelyphotos.com. So freelyphotos.com. And here, I mean, you just have a multitude of images. Some of them are silly, in my opinion. I would never use them, at least not in a church worship setting. Some of them are beautiful and great. So when it comes to free, then we have to go through and we have to decide which one of these images would be great for our worship, great for the style of our church, and so on. A second website I like to use is one called pixabay.com. Now, the good thing about Freely Photos and this one, pixabay.com, is that the images are free. There's no royalty, there's no copyright. And so those are the reasons why I like to use these. Again, because they're free photos, there's going to be a whole lot of images that aren't the greatest images. But we simply, type something in and look it up. And, that was something secular. But if I was to put something, religious in here, there could be any number of pictures that come up. And these are all free pictures. Obviously, coming from a Baptist church background, we're not going to use all of these, but they're all available for your use, no matter what denomination that you are from. They can be used in this way. So I want to thank you for listening to this particular lecture. What we did in this lecture was survey all the materials that you might need to put together a church worship service. And in the next lecture, we're actually going to go through step by step putting together a church worship service using these various tools. And so hopefully this will be a blessing to you, to your church, to your ministry. And ultimately, even if 10% of the information I give you is useful and the other 90 isn't, I hope that it will be a blessing in furthering the gospel of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for all that he's done for us. Thank you so much for watching.